So my name is James Mullany. I work with Beeby, Clark & Meyler, which is a full-service digital agency with offices in New York and Stamford. And we'll just kind of go through the rest of the panel, introduce yourselves, your company and your role, and we'll get on after that.
Hi, I'm Michael Lieberman. I'm CEO of Joule North America. Joule is a full-service mobile agency, so strategy, creative, and media embedded within WPP. And we work sort of across the mobile spectrum with what I'd say is an increasing emphasis nowadays, especially on retail and brick and mortar, as mobile evolves to sort of take care of what I imagine is a bit of a forgotten area in terms of retail versus e-commerce in the digital space.
Hi, I'm Heather Sears. I'm VP of Marketing at YP, used to be Yellow Pages, and I handle marketing for national agencies and national brands, which is important because we know national brands make up 40% of local media spend. Very critical.
Hi everyone, Christian Gennaro. I run channel partnerships at Thinknear by Telenav. We are a location-based mobile ad network focused really on hyper-local. I work with other publishers and other media companies to help them refine and target the folks that they want to hit with their messaging.
So we have a nice mix of agency, publisher, technology, and within mobile, the largest variable that we see is location. What it provides to you goes beyond anything that an out-of-home TV or broadcast can. So with that location, where is it sourced? Is it first party? Are we leveraging third party? What is the benefits of the type of data that we're using?
I'll kick that one off. Fortunately for Thinknear, which is owned by Telenav, we do have that ability to use our first-party location data that Telenav has, being the leader in GPS systems for in-dash, handhelds, mobile phones. So we're fortunate enough that we can use that first-party data to refine that location data on the exchange and deliver what we think is a more accurate geofence or geocookie.
I'll go. So just a little bit of context. So I was with a location-based mobile ad company called Sense Networks that YP acquired at the very end of last year, founded out of MIT. And we had actually been working with location data since before iPhone, if anybody remembers that. But what we do and what YP does now is we are hooked into the mobile ad exchanges. We build profiles. We have profiles on over 150 million consumers with 100 attributes each. And we have transformed our science and engineering team into YP Mobile Labs. So there's a lot of work that is needed with location data. There's accuracy that needs to be thought about, but we have these folks who have been working with it for many, many years to make sure that only the best location is incorporated into our advertisements.
And then the integration of that data into a marketing plan, is it approached on an audience perspective, or is it taken as a tactic that mobile and location is an entire campaign that we're using, or does it just help define our audience?
I think for the brands that we work with, you always want to start with your typical planning, right? Strategy, objective, audience. And to the extent that location is brought into the picture early, right? It helps us define our audience. It helps us understand behaviors. It may not be the whole picture, right? For some advertisers, maybe it is of paramount importance, but it's another way to identify audiences across all digital platforms. So now that you can connect devices, understanding what someone does on their mobile doesn't mean you're only setting a little 10-mile geofence or a 10-meter geofence. It means you can hit them with a different creative message wherever they might be, whether it's at home, on the go, in the office, regardless of platform, and better understand how to target your audience. So ideally, it comes in early in the process, and it's something that goes throughout, whether or not you're using it explicitly to buy an impression in that moment or to inform other tactics.
But do you see the demand on the sell side in terms of demand for using location in the efforts? Does the creative match the location that you're providing, or is it we're just hitting this checkbox of doing something mobile and location-based?
I think that actually depends on, we were talking earlier how sophisticated that buyer is, right, that client. Because certain aspects of it is good enough, but if you've got a more sophisticated buyer, client, you really do need to use location to refine that audience. So I think it really depends on who you're working with at that time.
And I'll actually go back to your prior question a bit as well. So when we sell audience, it's audience. Our targeting capability is based on location, location history, location patterns, and that's what allows us to understand where people shop, where they hang out. We can predict where they live, their demographics, and that allows the very interesting audience segments to pop up and to obviously to be targeted. So location might be intrinsic to the targeting, but or it is intrinsic. It's in the cake mix, right? It's not just the frosting. So we can understand who we're targeting, and we can put a geofence or a polygon on top of that as well. And then the uniqueness of that ability to find audiences then informs the creative. So for example, we did a campaign with a couple of major QSRs actually, where we were looking at their competitors, and each creative, we were able to target people who were shopping at their competitors, so people do that, right, the geo-conquesting. But we had specific offers, specific language and messaging that were particular to each competitor, and driving back with coupons. And then on the back end, we were able to see how loyal these customers were. Were they just shopping at the QSR, the competitive QSR, or our client and the competitive? So like dual loyalty, we're working into that angle of targeting. And the type of creative was very, very powerful in making this a successful approach.
So location is definitely changing the creative process. So from an agency perspective, Michael, how are you changing the way that you deal with a creative concept? So is it the concept, and then this is how we execute against these different audiences, location informing creative? Or is it, this is our media partner that we're working with, this is what they're able to provide us, and then you work it from there?
I'd say in the ideal scenario, the partner comes last, right? That's, all apologies. I can get creative, location, targeted inventory from quite a few partners. And the fact is today, short of campaign results, I can't actually tell who's giving me better location targeting creative because we have no third-party auditing. So I'm taking everyone at their word for it anyway to some degree. So what we want to do is let the strategy drive the creative. Understand what that experience should be, right? Get us out of a 300 by 50, what are we rotating in the banner, and get us to a whole experience of what do we want to serve people, possibly when they're out and about, when they're at home, at night, during the day, based on all these different factors that you configure from that one signal, which gives you so much in terms of that person's intent, and try and match the creative to their mindset at that moment.
And then in terms of the media buying, so my experience is that maybe 2 or 3 years ago, it was, in order to have a very sophisticated data targeting campaign, it's a cobbling of a few different media partners or technologies. Do we feel as if the complete product offering is there in terms of being able to leverage the technology with accuracy, along with the media buying aspect of it, whether it be ad units, the creative flexibility? Is it there? Are we finally there with everything being available in a streamlined approach?
At least from my perspective, you can get everything from one partner, right? So we can do the location targeting, we can identify audiences, place the buy. You guys will even help us with creative if we needed it, right? But I don't know that having one partner makes it all better, right? Sometimes it actually is better to break up who's doing the creative from where you're getting your source data to who is actually doing that targeting. And I think that's a place that from the buy side, you mentioned in the back there how much further ahead the sell side is on the technology side compared to those of us on the agency side and our technology stack. right now, there's no accredited view that anyone on the buy side has of the inventory we're getting, right? And I think that breaking it up and actually taking it apart into different pieces will allow us that visibility to know that what we're buying on behalf of our clients is, is either the most accurate, or if we have to give up something, you have to give up a little accuracy to achieve scale, we'll understand the better balance in what we're doing because we can see that data firsthand.
I think it's something that we're always trying to do is help people understand what goes into our data. Our mobile labs are they're scientists, and they're armed deep into the data every day, and they're dealing with location accuracy, and they're dealing with how do we improve the results. Depending on what the strategy is, you build a campaign, the creative is part of it. But for example, we offered over this summer a guarantee on secondary action rates, because that's just so absolutely critical. If you do apples to apples, we said we will, we're so confident in our ability to deliver, we'll guarantee this lift. And it just opens the conversation. Well, how do you do that? How do you optimize? What do you have to offer? And I think it's really important for anybody who's out there selling and talking about this to be very confident and open in what we're providing to agencies and brands.
I think it'd be great to be the single partner for everybody out there. But as I kind of look at my business and sort of see how it's evolving, we have the ability to offer creative, to obviously do the location component, to do the execution piece. And I almost take a step back and say, as I talk to publishers specifically, what do they really want? Well, they kind of want the location accuracy piece as a standalone, right? So I see that we're going to get to this point where you offer everything, and it's a great solution for partners, and then you kind of want to pick apart the pieces that you want to isolate and sell as a standalone product. And I think the notion of location accuracy as a service is something that I'm most interested in as I kind of develop the partnership business for Thinknear.
And what is the role of the publisher in this process?
In our particular process right now, certainly to give us the traffic and the inventory that we're going out and purchasing. I think without them we don't have anything to actually execute on, right? But the publisher as a potential client from scoring their owned and operated location, owned and operated inventory, and saying that's the best location around a particular auto dealer. That's most exciting for me, and I think we need more publishers to understand that location really is so crucial to that, so that we can go ahead and help them really identify that.
And I can, from the YP perspective, so there's two sides. We have profiles on these 150 million mobile users through the acquisition of Sense, and that's all through the exchanges, and then we obviously have YP.com mobile desktop, and actually not many people realize we're the number 2 mobile search provider after Google. So in mobile search revenue, we're number 2. So we're the challenger brand for Google. But so we're very obviously location is part of what we do, and the promise with integrating the very, very robust location histories and location profiles with the mobile search data is that we have even more granular opportunities for targeting. So we'll have search histories in addition to understanding location histories. So that's part of the promise, and I think the opportunity for publishers to make their data very, very powerful.
And some of the industry attention around mobile is that it's not, the creative allowance is very minimal. It's a small banner ad. And we had discussed before, you're seeing a lot of demand for rich media and video. So which conflicts with the attention around mobile. Is this a recent trend, or is this kind of baked into what location allows and the rich media opportunities on mobile that the creative provides?
Well, I think everyone's looking for a better experience, right? So I've been hearing the call for what's beyond the banner for years. I've been working with location-based mobile for like 5 years, and what's beyond the banner. So now we have rich media that's and video that's coming, and various folks are integrating different types, but that's the promise. What's next? We're doing the best with what we have.
Mobile's an incredible platform for creating experiences, right? Most brands or clients have had to think of themselves for the last few years as content producers in some way, shape, or form. Mobile's actually fast-forwarded that to experience. If you're just creating content, so if you've created a 15-second spot that's a cut down of your TV ad and you say, great, this is my mobile creative, you've pretty much failed because you have the most interactive platform ever and you're causing someone to just sit there and watch for 15 seconds, right? So we've generally not gotten creative right. And whether it's the tiny banner, which was simply the easiest thing to monetize 5 years ago, and we still can't get away from it, or other formats that are still to come, I think where you'll see the most success is something that invites an experience instead of just pure consumption. And to the extent that that experience is customized by location or by any other indicators of a consumer's intent, that's where you're going to see the experience take off.
I'm still shocked whenever I see a 300 by 50 banner that's got so much information on it. It's like, my eyes want to pop out of my head. And having been in a publisher for 4 years before this role, you had pretty sophisticated sales force that know how to sell digital, trying to cram 5 bullet points in a small banner. And I think it really does the platform a disservice there because it's an awful ad experience, which lends itself to a really bad, I think, user experience, right? It's an ad, but it's within the confines of a trusted app or site you go to all the time. So the more we can sort of promote best practices in terms of creative, the better. And then sort of what's next after that banner experience is something, to Michael's point, we're still, kind of trying to figure out.
In a comment kind of a little bit beyond creative, but I was thinking that, just with the evolution of mobile and local, like hyper-local is not enough to make a real impact. I think we really need to think about how to get hyper-personal. And I think a lot of companies are starting to do that. That will manifest in targeting strategies, like what we're doing with just the many different attributes you can target on, incorporating search, incorporating buying behavior, incorporating, who knows what cool 3D, creative aspects will be developed, holograms or something. But, the opportunity is to give consumers, that personalized experience and not just assume that they're in a block area, so they must be, type B. It's like, no, we have this opportunity to use all this data and really, really get personal. And I think location is one part of informing that.
And with location and the ability to buy location, from an industry perspective, trading desks, is the technologies there, or do you still have to work with 3 different partners, or what is the different trends that we may see moving forward with the enhancements?
So I think part of what is, we'll use the broad term programmatic, but part of what is good about it is it does allow you to break up the process to take the most efficient piece at each level, right? And so I sit on the 4A's Mobile Task Force and the MMA Location Accuracy Committee, and the thing that we've both taken up is this idea of how do we validate the location data? Because even if you're ingesting data through a DSP or through another platform, how do you validate that it's right? And it's not that we don't trust our partners. We think they are doing a great job generally at cleansing the data and identifying, what lat long should be thrown away and what can be trusted to X degree. But at some point, we're going to need to see that for ourselves and understand the scoring behind it. So there is a big movement right now to understand how to score that data, how to make it enforceable, and get partners signed up to provide that. Right, but that's one piece. Your DSP is another silo. If you include dynamic creative, which is kind of sort of available in mobile nowadays, but it is certainly coming to a greater degree. You have your clients or a third-party DMP on the front end informing everything, and now you've chosen the best of each partner to create your own client tech stack. Or if you are a larger agency structure, you've created one on behalf of your clients that can work across multiple. Right? So it's still about understanding and choosing the best inputs, but it's not necessarily a one technology or a one provider solution.
So are your clients skeptical of the accuracy of this location, or are we trending towards a direction where companies like IP and Thinknear are able to provide that accuracy data to prove why their data is more accurate than the other providers?
It's a little bit of both, right? So there's still a bit of skepticism, but 50% right is better than 0%. So we do see indicators, and we see things beyond click-through rate in terms of store visit or driving people to a location. Or did we see a better response on other engagement metrics when we use the location audience targeting? And we do see upticks, so we know it's working. The question is it working as well as it could? And that's something that we don't know just how well it can work to measure yet.
And I would say, I think we're actually all on the MMA, or our companies are all on the MMA Location Accuracy Committee. It's so critical and pertinent, and I hear brands asking about that too. Talk to me, tell me, why are you accurate? Why should we trust this data? And one of the things we found is sometimes the proof is in the pudding of the results of the metrics at the end, and being able to explain how it's optimized, and metrics are probably another conversation point, but when you can actually use location data to understand who then went to visit a store after a campaign. And we've had a lot of success with mobile coupons, where clients will actually share the lift rate of their in-store revenue based on our campaigns, and that's another validator that we really found all the folks who were shopping at that retailer and their competitors, because look, they went to they went to purchase and validated in other ways.
And where else do we see the demand in terms of objective measurement? What capabilities do we have in measurement? What's actually being executed, and how is that performance, the feedback from the clients throughout the campaign?
So you mean from the perspective of an attribution model or accrediting, lift and store visits? I mean, we still need that feedback from the end client, right? But I always say everyone gets upset at the CTR, but if CTRs are poor, your campaigns are going to get paused, so you're never going to have a chance to actually see if it's going to work. So it's a gentle balance between sort of paying attention to both things, right? How important is that? Well, it's important to keep CTR high so that your campaign keeps going, and then what happens after the click, right? So I think that's what we're struggling with, is sort of say, well, what types of high quality secondary actions can we really quantify and bring back? We need that data, we need that information from our client to kind of wrap it up.
No, I was going to say, we were talking in the back about most of our companies are finding there's an inverse correlation between click-through and other secondary metrics, or click-through and store visit rate, because everyone who clicks, they're not necessarily the ones who are taking that action further down in the funnel, but everybody looks at click-through. They just do. It's the top of the funnel. So an ongoing conversation.
I think one of the main problems in digital is that we're all, if you have a digital background, you were taught to look at click-through rate, online engagements, e-commerce metrics, and the beauty of mobile is that it impacts your real-world life. It impacts what you do actually out here every single day whenever you pick up your phone and look at it to decide where you want to go, help you make a decision on this product, help you purchase now, whatever it might be. It's not about what happens only on your phone screen, it's about what you're doing outside. And to my knowledge, no clients have a media mix model that accounts for things like visit rate. And whether you think visit rate is the be-all, end-all of metrics notwithstanding. But clients aren't taking that into consideration. They have older models, they have older goals, they're incentivized on hitting X, Y, or Z. So the last thing that they're thinking about is how do I go and change my model, which has been successful for me for the last 10 years, and radically upheave this whole thing. Even if it works better, it's a risky thing to do.
And we have a few minutes left, so is there any particular, before we hit Q&A, is there any particular trends that you guys forecast, either within your own companies or across the board? We were talking earlier about how we may have been speaking about location and mobile for 5 years, and so what is the next 5 years going to look like? These same conversations, or where is the developments going to be?
I think the next development is tightening down location to at retail, right? We have a tremendous amount of data now about our ability to drive people to a store, and we even know what they purchased. We have no idea what they did in the aisles, right? Or we have a very limited idea of what they did. And if you buy into the fact that your in-store experience actually does influence whether you buy something, that's a huge miss. So I think that the idea that we can use mobile to measure in-store audience patterns, behaviors, things like that is going to be a huge data transformation in how we start marketing to people on premise.
Yeah, I would say, the beacons are all the rage. They're very small scale. You need partners who have scale to drive people to store, but we'll have to see how behavior picks up to shift that. But that's all undermining my concept of hyper-personalization. That's where it's going, so that we can really understand people in privacy-safe ways and be relevant and help add value to their experience.
I think it's been the year of the mobile since 2006. Is that about right? So I must be pretty smart because these two colleagues of mine actually mentioned the two things that I would really worry about in terms of that data is what are you actually doing within, a store? Where are you going? How are you shopping that store? And that's the thing I think really what we can start looking at deeper in the future.
Questions?
Hi, David Kaplan with Joule Marketing. Aside from the question of is location more than a feature of mobile advertising, is it more of a feature? Is it more than a feature for direct response? To kind of get a bit more into the hyper personalization term that you coined, Heather. Can location be used to inform branding and build demographics, build better demographic profiles, or is it really just about finding someone right now, right where they are?
I'll start. We actually use location to build demographics. So that's one of the things that our technology does. So yes, it is more than a feature. It's intrinsic to a way of reaching people, of identifying audiences, and so it can be much deeper. And yes, demos is one example.
I think if you're able to catch someone's attention at the very basic level of, that ad's for it says New York, it's 3 o'clock, I'm paying attention to it, you're bringing some sort of baseline awareness level through that personalization. So I think it definitely has roles in both branding and DR.
Are you seeing a demand from other verticals other than QSR and retail for very accurate location-based ad impressions, and if so, in which verticals?
We've seen it across the board, so it's not just the retailers, but it's electronics, it's CPG, it's automotive, anyone. Basically, yes, we see it across the board. And the reason being, because it's not just about can I hit someone when they are within 5 blocks of my store, is this a smart way of understanding audience behaviors? Did I see someone on competitive automotive lots over the last 2 weeks and I know they're in market for a car? Do you go to Walgreens every other Wednesday and that's your regular shopping trip? So how do I influence you at that moment before you go? Right? There are a lot of ways to build these audiences, and I think that's an important piece of where marketers are going. So different from the online cookie-based behavior tracking, which doesn't necessarily follow your real-world behavior, this does, and I think that's why location is so powerful and why we've probably been talking about it for 5 years.
What's interesting to me is the amount of entertainment clients that we've started to do business with, from obviously pushing theatrical releases, but also home video and also just general branding. I was sort of, I've only been at the company for 2 months, and I was surprised at the level of business that we do with entertainment. It's just interesting based on, yes, obviously retail we get, QSR we understand, auto certainly, but entertainment was one of those things that stuck out in my mind as being unique.
Any other questions? No. Well, thank you very much. and have a great day.